when I was in the hospital that first night, when they put the heart monitors on and the oxygen and everything in my nose and all the IV bags, and when I closed my eyes, I was in another place. And this place was so tranquil and so peaceful. It was like an explorer's dream. It was jungles and terrain and mountains and hills. And I was like, this is crazy. I know my eyes are closed, but my eyes are open and I'm in no pain. And then I forced my eyes open and I was back in my body and I was in pain. And I looked to my left and I saw Elizabeth laying on this recliner that she was spending the night in the hospital with me. I forced my eyes closed again and I was there again. And then I forced my eyes open again and I was back. And the third time I did it, I was there. And the peace was so tranquil and so peaceful and majestic and unknowing. It wasn't a specific person that walked up to me, but it was like they were translating to me, you can stay here if you want, but if you go back, it's going to be very hard. And I thought of Elizabeth right away. I was like, we haven't even been married 1 year. I'm just starting over with this relationship, and this is a great marriage. And I thought, she's so young, she would be distraught, probably hurt, heartbroken. So I said, no, I'm going to go back. But during this process, I got this understanding, like if I stayed there, it was just so easy to just transition right into whatever that was. And I would be at total peace for eternity. And I wouldn't have any pain, any worries, any issues. It was an easy decision to stay. I chose the harder decision to come back. When I came back, I was back in my body. And I actually tried to go back again, couldn't get there. But that knowing of that peace and that transitional force with that energetic divine, whatever it was, I just felt like, when you die, you're just moving from one density to another, and where you're going, this movement or this transition, it's instantaneous, and there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's just a natural process. It's the next part of your journey. And I just felt like a certain level of peace just knowing that.
I would refer to at this point as a soul blueprint, this Thoth. What is his purpose in all of this? Is this for his own observation, or is there, is this a service to self or service to others?
He had raised himself to such a high level of consciousness that his whole main purpose, and the only reason why he got to this level of consciousness and ability, is because of service to others. His whole main purpose is for service to others. He never wanted to be called a god, never tried to claim that he was any type of a god. As a matter of fact, when he descended on the land of Chem in his ship and he opened the doors, the barbarians came to attack him. He raised his staff and sent out a ray of vibration, stopping him still a stone in the mountain, according to him, which means that some type of advanced weapon that had the ability to stun them and stop them. Then he went and released them and began to talk peace with them. And then after he showed them some of his advanced technology, they groveled at his feet. And he picked them up and said, no, we are the sons of Atlantis. And we're here to raise a higher level of civilization in this area, basically, is what he's trying to say. And we're going to teach you, we're going to raise you, we're going to give you language, we're going to give you technology, we're going to give you architecture, so forth and so on. So again, here, more evidence that he had a perfect opportunity here to say, I'm your God, bow to me, so forth and so on. But when they groveled at his feet, he stopped them and picked them up and said, no, we're the same. I'm just more advanced. And I'm here to teach you, So his main purpose is service to others, and he's gone all around this planet, and the evidence of his architecture, because he says he built the Great Pyramid. So now you look at all the pyramids around the planet, you look at the technology, the megalithic structures, you start to realize we have the same architect involved in all of this handiwork.
On other planets, underwater, the pyramidal structure is quite fascinating.
Yeah, incredible.
When you look a little bit deeper, you find that they were worried in the text. As a matter of fact, on several occasions, they say the creator of all is going to punish us for what we did here. What we did here was not correct, not right. They knew that they had done something wrong, that they had engaged a civilization, a species that was technologically less advanced than them. Pretty much violating a prime directive. And they were worried about it. They were really concerned about it. So by them saying that, we found out two things. One thing is there's somebody higher than them that they have to answer to, which means the second thing is they're not gods. They're just regular people that have more technology. And it seems as if this higher creator, or whatever you want to call it, could be part of this, or maybe even the overseer of this Galactic Federation. Now, this Galactic Federation, this is not the first time it's ever come up. It's come up by actual government officials. I remember the Canadian Minister of Defense actually brought this up on an actual mainstream news interview. And he says they have a federation. He said a galactic federation of sorts, and they're watching us.
The abilities that Thoth possessed, including the ability to materialize out of pure thought, to use sound to move things and to build things like the pyramids of Egypt, and perhaps most perplexing, his ability to use technology to live perhaps 1,000 years more, maybe. Where did all this come from?
These people, these beings are super advanced people. I mean, they are probably a million years ahead of us. So if you look at where we came from in the last 100 years, from the horse buggy all the way to now space travel and sending remote control cars to Mars and to other moons in our solar system, imagine now 1 million years from now. I mean, the technology we're going to have is totally sick. We're going to be able to live for probably tens of thousands of years, if we go on the right path and take the right journey. So these people, obviously, being that they had started many, many years before us, had developed spiritual technology and hard technology. So they had the hard tech and the spiritual tech, and they were able to combine the two together. They really had figured out the keys to some of the mysteries of the universe and the ether of space-time, and were able to combine it with hard technology and incorporate that into their own bodies as well. So it's an incredible, incredible feat that they were able to do. And Thoth talks about materializing matter from light, materializing matter from vocalizations, from different types of cymatic frequencies. As a matter of fact, in the Emerald Tablets, he gives out several names. These aren't names of people. These are actually frequencies. They look like names, but they're frequencies. So when you utter these frequencies, you alter your reality tunnel. And you're supposed to use this in times of need and desperation and so forth if you want to correct the path that you're on. But it's all about frequencies, cymatics, vibrations, and photonic energy.
This is what Tesla said, did he not?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
Wow.
The pyramid used to have water running underneath it from the Nile. The Nile used to run right up close to the Great Pyramid, but the tubules that go underneath the pyramid where the water would flow from the aquifer is still there because you can actually walk inside of them when you go around and underneath the pyramid. When water would flow under the magnetized granite base of the pyramid in the aquifer, it would create something called physiostatic electricity. And this physiostatic electricity will pull ions up into the pyramid and then shoot them up through the Grand Gallery, which had resonating rods, which have now been removed, but we can see the slots where they were. Then it would be shoved into the king's chamber where I'm standing, and some type of fusion reaction would happen, and that would be the power burst that would then get sent through the apex with the gold capstone and then transmitted out wireless electricity to the region. And the crystal granite magnetized obelisk would capture that ambient energy. And if you had a jed pillar, which is like a Tesla coil, with a cable connected to it, which we've seen in Egypt when I took people to the underground crypt at Dendera, you can then power things like light bulbs, electroplating devices, and so forth and so on.
If Thoth is truly on a mission to help us evolve, who else might know?
The governments of the world.
Collaborate.
If you go to Washington, D.C. and go to the Library of Congress, there's two gigantic steel doors, double doors to open that Library of Congress. Who's etched into the steel on the door? Thoth. Thoth and Odin, who's both the same person, because as when you go into the more Greek times, he's Odin, he's also a Mercury. They have different names over different ages and different regions of the world, but it's the same exact person. So when you go there, they've got Thoth etched into the steel doors at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. Wow. I think they know exactly who he is, and this is why you see all of the Egyptian motif in Washington, Egyptian motif in England at the palaces, at the Vatican.
Absolutely.
And this is all reminiscent of, they've got the information, they've got the knowledge, and they're basically using it through brick masonry. They're showcasing everything they know, all the angles and the different types of structures that they build to harness energy and everything else. But they're putting it in our face. They're hiding it in plain sight. And the average layman who's got to focus on going to work, paying bills, taking care of the kids, I got to work till I can get enough money to retire, and all these things, completely distracted from what's right in front of their face, can't focus on it. And the elites and the oligarchy, they maintain their power over us that way.
Wow.
Some people will try to tell you that the black Jews, they just happened to capture some of this information and then they ran off to Ethiopia and they tried to start their own religion with it. Not what happened at all. What happened was they had the original knowledge. The Ethiopian Jews say the Star of David is actually a Merkaba. The Hebrew word Merkaba is actually composed of three words. Merkaba. Mer means light, Ka refers to the spirit, and Ba refers to the body. When you put these three words together, you get the notion of your body as the chariot or the vehicle for your spirit to ascend to the higher dimension or become divine light. In other words, it's the ascension process towards your light body. It goes way beyond simply being a better person and touches on the idea of becoming your true light self. This is the real meaning of the star. And when these people have this kind of knowledge, that means what they have supersedes what the other people know about the star, because they actually think it's just a piece of jewelry to put around the neck, something to remember the flag of the country and things like that. Decoration. That's from Encyclopedia Britannica. That's not from Billy Carson. The Merkaba symbol also refers to the healing energy and the effect of the divine union between male and female energy, meaning the union of self, the spirit and the body, and the self with the divine.
I think the most interesting discovery that I've made, and I would have to say it's a theory because obviously nothing can be completely proven, but it appears that the Great Sphinx and the Great Pyramid of Giza are about 36,000 years old, maybe even a little bit more.
Man.
And that I'm basing that on the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and after I've gone extensively through them and discovered that they were written about 36,000 years ago, and in there Thoth claims to have built the Great Pyramid. But at the same time, the Sphinx itself has been now known to have a lot of weathering, and the weathering is leading to a lot of non-mainstream archaeologists to saying maybe the last ice age. But because it aligns with the constellation of Leo, if you go back 2 more precessional periods, you're right at 36,000 years. At the same time that Thoth claims to have built the Giza Great Pyramid, and also at the time where everything is perfect in terms of peace and tranquility and the ability to, what he calls, bring civilization back up in the Emerald Tablets to a high level. So I'm really thinking that the Sphinx itself is probably, and the Great Pyramid on Giza is probably about 36,000 years old. When I went to, the last time I went to Egypt was May of 2014, and I went to Saqqara, and I went to those pyramids of Saqqara and some of the structures at Saqqara, and I noticed that the quality of the construction, the further back you go, is better. And as you come closer into the future, everything becomes more or worse, or it falls apart, or it can't withstand time. And I'm starting to realize now, even when I went up into the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid and really started analyzing the structure, going into the King's Chamber, analyzing the fact that I still today can't put a human hair in between the granite blocks in the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, and realizing that we have literally been an advanced civilization here on this planet that has fallen apart due to probably some type of ancient war, or maybe a cataclysm, or maybe a combination of both. And now we're in the rebuilding process, trying to rediscover. Everything is a rediscovery at this point. Everything from the metric system to construction techniques to technology to even this microphone that we're using right now. Everything has already existed here, and we're trying to find our way back to that high level again.
That's amazing. So you mentioned that you're not even able to stick a piece of hair between the stones in the pyramid, right? It's very difficult even for us right now to be able to have technology at that level. What do you think from your findings does that tell us about that civilization?
Well, the civilization was extremely advanced. They had tools that we don't have today. As a matter of fact, at Abu Simbel, when I went there, that was actually built much lower in that area, and we actually took it apart block by block and moved it up so that we can build a dam, so they can build a dam actually over there, because they needed a dam. When they put it back, they tried to realign it to where the sun aligns perfectly with the chamber that illuminates the gods on the inside, and they couldn't do it. They were about 5 degrees off. With our advanced technology today, we still couldn't duplicate what the ancients did. So what that's telling me is that basically we've got to find a way to really figure out what types of tools they were using, because if we can tap into that, we might be able to get into things like zero-point energy. We might be able to get into different types of anti-gravity, levitation type devices, frequency devices that can generate frequencies that can actually create matter out of the ether, like Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets. All these different types of technologies that were stripped out of a lot of these ancient sites, including all the apexes of the pyramids, the Grand Gallery of the Great Pyramid, stripped clean of technology.
I've taken notes from the ancients, from our ancestors, and texts that they've left behind. In particular, these Sumerian tablets, they call themselves the ordainers of destiny. And these particular group of people that call themselves this, they developed a special skill and a special talent that I believe every single person in the entire universe that has a sentient conscious mind can actually utilize in their life. Now, some of these beings use it to obtain a dark future. Some of them use it to obtain light. It's up to you. See, there's only one force that exists. One force, one consciousness. That energy can be used for darkness or for light. yin and yang. You have the Jedi and you have the Empire. They're both using the same exact energy force. They understood that the future exists in superposition of itself. What does that mean in quantum physics? Superposition. We're talking about multiple realities. We're talking about multiple outcomes. Virtually every outcome that could exist will exist. That is a superposition. They're actual actions that they take now, and that moment, the moment of now, will create a ripple in space-time that will go out. That ripple travels out ahead of them from that moment. It leaves them and it goes into the space-time continuum. They then rendezvous with that ripple at a point in the future based on whatever that action unfolds into reality.
Was Thoth a walk-in at times, you think?
It's very possible. He could be multidimensional. I mean, he often talked about being able to go through portals into other dimensions and also visit other planets. One thing about him is that he had talked about developing these avatar bodies. So I believe that he was a physical being because he would transfer his consciousness from one avatar body to the next. So he would go into an avatar body, which is just like in the movie Avatar, unbelievably, a humanoid body. And he would walk, he said he would walk amongst men. And then while he was in that body, the other body he left, he would put in the Halls of Amenti underneath the Great Pyramid in these chambers, which they just found, chambers about a mile deep underneath the Great Pyramid. They're really there. This is just recently, a recent discovery.
Yeah.
And then the Halls of Amenti were these rejuvenation chambers, and he would put the body in there for 100 years while he walked amongst men and did whatever else he did. Then he would come back, and he claimed to have done this 100 times. So that's 100,000 years alone, just 100,000 years of him transferring from body to body, walking amongst men. Other evidence that shows that he was a physical person was the fact that he had ruled, documented now in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, ruled over Egypt for 14,000 years in the ancient past. He also was seen by people in Mesoamerica. When he left Africa, he took Olmecs with him, African Olmecs, and they went and kickstarted the Teotihuacan civilization in Mexico, where he was seen by people like the Mayans and the Aztecs and everything else, and he was called Viracocha, Quetzalcoatl,
How did they
Kukulkan.
recognize him?
Well, they didn't recognize him as far as knowing that he was Thoth, but he came there with his magic science, which translates into advanced technology, and his architecture. He was there, he became their god. In other words, he never wanted to be called a god, but they deified him because they couldn't, a less advanced civilization, when they look at somebody that's that high tech and that advanced, they automatically believe it's a god. So they became cargo cults. The Mayans, the Aztecs, they became cargo cults of the Teotihuacans, who were an advanced Atlantean civilization that came across from Africa, led by Thoth, and started building an advanced civilization there. The Mayans actually never built anything in Mexico. The Mayans came and inherited what the Teotihuacan had already left behind. And then that's when they deified Thoth as a god. But Quetzalcoatl, they call him Viracocha, he's been Kukulkan, he's been Lord Piccal, he's been all these different names. People have seen him, they've described him, yeah, he kickstarted that civilization, not only there, but in other places around the world. We're talking everywhere from Cambodia, all over Asia, Australia. If you go to Australia, there's etchings of Thoth from Egypt in Australia into clay that was hardened in Australia. There's an Egyptian temple partially buried in Karyong 9 in Australia that has Egyptian hieroglyphs that date back tens of thousands of years, where it shows that Egyptians were leaving Egypt and going to Australia to talk to the Aborigine people to get knowledge and wisdom from the Aborigines, who were the first people that they claim were here and that came from the Pleiadians. So it's just, the story is huge. And when I went to Egypt in 2014, the story of two brothers going to Australia and one dying from a snake bite and the brother bringing him back was the finishing of the story was in Egypt when I got there. So it was an amazing closed circle there, showing that they had really gone and come back. And of course, the temple is still there.
Even within the multiverse, universes can be nested, meaning we may not be at base reality, that we are in this universe that's created potentially by an ancestor civilization, just as we are now creating our own ancestor civilizations in the video games like The Sims or No Man's Sky. When The Sims get AI injected into them, which is going to happen now, they're going to become conscious. And these beings inside of the Sims video game are going to start asking questions. Who am I? Who made us? What is this realm we're living in? What is this Big Bang? Is that when we turned on the game console? And then you have No Man's Sky, 80 quadrillion planets in a game that never ends, an unlimited number of life forms, and it fits on one DVD. It doesn't have AI yet. When they put AI into the next version, all of a sudden, that's an entire universe of conscious beings, living plants, living everything. So all of a sudden, we are already duplicating what's maybe been done to us.
Think about some of the most hardest jobs to get in the world. One of the hardest jobs to get in the world is not even being a president. The hardest job to get in the world is having the code to all the nukes and knowing how to activate and deactivate them and guarding them. That's probably some of the hardest jobs to get in the world. And these guys say people came there in ships, hacked into the nukes live in broad daylight, on camera in front of everyone, and deactivated the codes. Nuclear physicists, the testimony of nuclear silo armed guards, people who guarded nukes in missile silos owned by the United States, people who actually had the arming codes for nuclear devices, the arming codes. This is the people, this is where they worked there. They were able to arm nukes and disarm nukes. They're talking about the UFOs that would show up in broad daylight at work, at the missile silos, and deactivate the nuclear codes, hack in and deactivate the nukes in broad daylight while they were standing there. So these UFOs would show up at flights, and then they would begin to deactivate nukes. What are they doing? What is this all about? They're letting us know that whenever they want, they can stop us, and there's nothing we can do to stop them. And so it's not a threat. They're not saying, hey, we're going to hurt you. What they're saying is, you see these nukes? We're not going to let you launch them. They went to Russia and did the same thing. You know what they're saying? You guys think you got power? You ain't got nothing. We got real power. Like, we have the real power. I said, you know what? Let's buzz their nuclear power plants. Let's buzz their nuclear silos right quick, and let's let them know we're still around, guys, and whatever we want, we'll do whatever we want. And guess what? You will not be able to destroy this planet even if you try, because we'll shut down all the nukes. You won't be able to make this planet a wasteland. We won't allow it. They won't allow us to have a nuclear battle. They won't allow it. It won't happen. The Cold War is a farce. The Cold War is a joke, and they knew this. Russia and America, they both knew this. They made a lot of money off the Cold War. They made trillions of dollars off of the fear of the citizens, thinking that there was a potential nuclear war that was going to go down, when it was never going to go down, not in a million years, because they had been warned already, and the nukes had been deactivated many times. Not once, not twice, dozens of times over the years, dozens on both sides, letting them know, hey, you're not going to be able to launch, not to attack, not to destroy this planet, because they still need this planet. There's a lot of resources on Earth, and they're not going to let this planet go to waste. This planet is an oasis in the middle of nothingness. And so this planet is extremely rare. It's a rare gem, and they're not going to let this planet get destroyed by us. And so when you see this video with these eyewitness testimonies from credible sources, people who actually were former military that guarded these things, rocket scientists that coded these things, then you'll see what I'm talking about. And so these beings are still coming here and checking us out. They're still watching. How do they know what the heck's going on this planet? Why would they come here at that time to start playing with our nuclear devices and shutting them down? You know, they saw what we were doing, and they're going to step in to prevent complete destruction of the planet. If we had a way of ourselves without destroying the planet, they probably wouldn't even care. But they're not going to allow this planet to go to waste. They're not going to allow this gem on the outer band of the Milky Way in the middle of nowhere, in the suburbs of space. They're not going to let it go to waste. They're not going to let us destroy it. These Anunnaki and these pyramids and these ancient temples and so forth, like, who built them? Did humans build them, or did aliens build them? And my answer to him was simply this: according to the ancient text, not according to Billy Carson, according to the ancient Egyptians, according to the Kemetic people, the Dogon tribe, according to the Aboriginals, the indigenous Aboriginals of Australia,
according to the indigenous peoples of the Americas, North America and South America. We're talking about people that have been here for a very long time, inhabiting these lands for a very, very long time. People came to this planet, according to them, in all their records left behind, and still in their current traditions. Today, people came here from another planet, other planets, other star systems, and began to teach human beings specific things, one of them being building techniques. And so by having a master architect come down and teaching these building techniques and these advanced technologies, people then learned from them and began to build these structures. It wasn't that aliens said, you know what, I think we want to do all the work and build all this stuff ourselves. They really passed down the information to people, and then people began to build them. And what's interesting is the further you go back in time, the more incredible and sound the structures are. The closer you come to the current era, the more dilapidated and poorly constructed these temples and so forth are. So the more ancient, the better. The newer, the worse. Doesn't make any sense. Why is it in deep antiquity, tens of thousands of years, everything was way better construction-wise than what we have here today? As the generations went on, the knowledge of how to create these super megalithic constructions was lost over time. And so over time, we lost our knowledge until right now you see our construction. A tornado comes through and everything is gone. A hurricane comes through, everything is gone. Back then, not even earthquakes can tear down these structures. So beings taught human beings, and human beings built those structures based on the teachings and under the instruction and guidance of these beings. And then over time, as these beings were long gone, over time, the techniques either got shortcutted, got lost, different catastrophes and calamities happened on the planet. Again, more of the knowledge getting lost and forgotten as records and information and instructions and diagrams disappear, and everything is going off of just memory and hearsay. And so fast forward into the future, you don't have the great structures anymore. We can barely build a building that can last 10, 20 years without maintenance happening every single week. Pretty interesting. If you don't believe me, go into an old neighborhood where you got foreclosed houses. Go look at a house that's been foreclosed for about 5, 6 years and see how it looks. It looks like it's about to collapse in just a few years. It can't even withstand a few years of being untouched. So pretty interesting.
I'm going to talk today about the Halls of Amenti. Okay, the Halls of Amenti, the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson. Now, according to Thoth, these Halls of Amenti is a rejuvenation chamber system where they would go to rejuvenate their bodies. I talked a little bit about it last week, where Thoth said 100 times 10 if I ascended into the path that led me to the Halls of Amenti, right? And he leaves each body in there for 100 years. He's done 100 times 10. So 100 times 10 and plus 100 years in between each body that he's jumping into. And these are his own bodies, not anyone else's bodies. He's not a body snatcher. But what's incredible is he transfers his consciousness from one body to the next. While one body is sitting in there for 100 years, he's running around in a different body. Then he comes back and he transfers into another body. And he rotates these bodies out. Same thing with Enki, same thing with Enlil, Anu, and all these other people. They had this advanced technology according to these ancient tablets, not according to me. So I'm going to read from Emerald Tablet number 2 a little bit here and break a few things down, all right? Deep in Earth's heart lie the Halls of Amenti, far beneath the island of the sunken Atlantis. It's beneath Atlantis, okay? It's beneath Atlantis. Now, there's several Halls of Amenti, and the clue to this is in this particular tablet, he's talking about a Halls of Amenti underneath Atlantis. And in another chapter or another tablet, he's talking about the Halls of Amenti underneath the Great Pyramid. There's also another Halls of Amenti in the vicinity of the pyramids at Giza. And I know exactly which one it is. It's at Saqqara, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. Deep in Earth's heart lie the Halls of Amenti, far beneath the island of the sunken Atlantis. Halls of the dead and halls of the living. You see, halls of the dead and halls of the living. These chambers are holding bodies
that are quote unquote dead. They're not really dead, but they're in a rejuvenation stage, okay, according to Thoth. And some of them have been rejuvenated and walk amongst men. He says, we walk amongst men, but unlike a man. They could be sitting next to you in a movie theater. They could be on you, sitting by you next to you on an airplane. They could be walking down the street, right past you in a shopping mall, or walking a dog in your neighborhood, and you wouldn't even know that it was them. So he says, halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the fire of the infinite all. The fire which we talked about last week is the eternal fire, the same fire that Yeshua, aka Jesus, talked about in the Bible. Right? It's the fire of the infinite all. It's the fire which represents eternal life. And in here, he's talking about the fact that these bodies have the spirit of the eternal life in them, even though some are rejuvenating and some are walking amongst men.